The room was cold, but not from any failing of the ventilation system. It was the kind of engineered chill designed to keep people alert, compliant. Cashin Vale stood in the center of it, a figure cut from silence and precision. His reflection in the obsidian glass wall opposite him was sharper than any photograph, yet somehow less real. He looked like someone sculpted for a purpose and then stripped of anything extraneous. That was the point after all. He didn't flinch when the door unsealed behind him. Director Sarah entered with the soundless authority of a descending blade. Her uniform, matte black and wrinkle-free, bore no insignia, only the gleam of her embedded temporal tag beneath her left temple. A living timestamp. Cashin's eyes flicked to it. Habit, not necessity. "You're being activated," she said without ceremony. Cashin didn't ask for details. He didn't nod. He simply stood still. "Codename Omega," she continued. "Rogue operator. Origin point. Approximately 17 years future ward. Exfiltrated from a collapsed node after initiating a divergent event in Quadrant 9. The words settled like static in the air. Sarah approached the central console and activated a holoscreen. Images flared to life. Blurry surveillance clips, shifting numbers, a strand of audio transcripts. One frame caught Cashin's eye. A figure in the center of a city square, half shrouded by light distortion, but unmistakably familiar. The gait, the jawline, the way he held a weapon, not with pride but with inevitability. "I know what you're thinking," Sarah said, observing him. "We ran biometrics twice. You. Or it was." Cashin didn't react outwardly, but something flickered across his eyes, a micro-expression that lasted less than a blink. "You're not the first to fracture. But you're the first to come back to kill yourself." He turned toward her finally. "Why now?" "Because the collapse is beginning. Omega has initiated a memory contagion protocol. Leaked future intel into the past, infecting minor timelines. If we don't eliminate him now, the timeline becomes irreparable. Worse, conscious." Cashin processed that. Not just a divergence. A self-aware time stream. That was theory, rumor. Temporal superstition. "I'll need weapons," he said. "You'll need restraint," Sarah countered. "Omega knows you better than you know yourself. Every move you make he's already considered. This isn't an elimination. It's a recalibration. You're not just removing him. You're restoring you." Cashin stepped forward. The image froze on the screen. Omega's eyes stared through the distortion, burning with a kind of sadness that had no place in a face like his. Or perhaps it once did. The jump coordinates loaded into his neural HUD. 72 hours back in stream. Temporal dead zone. No surveillance, no backups. Just the two of them. Before he left, Sarah handed him a sealed memory drive. "Don't open it unless you're ready to know why he ran." Cashin didn't take it. "I already know." "Do you?" Her voice was sharp but not unkind. "You've been many things, Cashin. Assassin, agent, artifact. But Omega, he was something you abandoned. Something you feared." "I fear nothing," he said. "Then you've forgotten what it was to feel anything." The shimmer opened in the center of the room. A swirl of distorted light, as if reality were being seen through trembling water. Cashin stepped in without hesitation. He landed hard. The acrid tang of burnt ozone. The smell of a future mid-collapse. He stood in a fractured cityscape. Buildings twisted like half-remembered thoughts. The sky was wrong, too bright, too slow. Cracks split the air like a scar across glass. No sound. Just the pulsing hum of a dying timeline. Cashin drew his sidearm and scanned. The HUD pulsed faintly, marking residual heat traces. Omega had been here recently. He moved through the alleyways like a ghost. Each step calculated, each breath measured. He remembered these streets. Or versions of them. But something gnawed at the edge of recognition. Storefront. Poster. A child's drawing pinned to a wall. They were echoes. From a life he'd never lived, or had erased. Then he saw him. standing across a broken fountain, calm as if awaiting a train. Omega. No weapon drawn. Just watching. Cashin leveled his gun. You know why I'm here, he said. Omega nodded. Because they told you I needed to die. You're destabilizing the stream. No, Omega said. I'm waking it up. Oz. The breeze picked up dust between them. For a moment the city held its breath. Cashin stepped forward. You're me. I was. Omega's expression softened. Before they broke you. Before you let them overwrite who you were. They saved me. They scrubbed you. You let them carve out your memories, your grief, your doubts. I refused. Cashin felt it. An ache behind his eyes, like something long buried was trying to surface. I'm not here to debate philosophy. You're here because you're afraid of what happens if I live. Cashin didn't reply. Omega stepped closer, unarmed still. They fear what you might remember. That you were once more than a weapon. That you loved. That you lost. That you wanted out. Cashin shook his head. You're trying to confuse me. I'm trying to remind you. Omega pulled something from his coat. A small journal, leather-bound, edges singed. He tossed it to Cashin's feet. Cashin stared. Your handwriting, Omega said. Before the mind wipe. Cashin picked it up. His fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside drawings. A woman's face. Boy. Notes written in the margins. They said they'd be safe. They lied. Flash. Something cracked inside his mind. Memory. Laughter in a hallway. Scream. Fire. A hand pulling him away. The cold nothingness that followed. You remember, Omega whispered. Cashin's gun didn't lower, but his hands trembled. This isn't about the stream, Omega said. It's about you. All of you. They're cleaning house. Killing every version of us that remembers. Cashin's voice was low. Why me? Because you're the last one who can stop them. Because you're the one they trained best. He looked up. What happens if I don't pull the trigger? Omega smiled. Then maybe for once the past wins. They stood there, silence stretching between two mirrored men. Somewhere in the distance, the sky cracked open just a little more. The shimmer behind Cashin closed like a wound, sealing him into the fractured now. The journal in his hand felt heavier than its physical weight, more a relic of identity than a record of memory. He didn't open it again, not yet. For now, it was enough that it existed, that it challenged everything he'd been told about himself. The city was silent save for the tremor of dying electricity and distant groans of unstable structures. Cashin moved not away from Omega but laterally, taking time to recalibrate, to think. That in itself was a deviation. The old Cashin would have ended it. One shot. Mission over. But now there was a breach inside him wider than any time rift. He entered what had once been a library. Its roof had collapsed inward, letting pale sunlight spill over mountains of forgotten knowledge. Shelves lay shattered, books curled like burnt leaves. At a still-standing terminal, he connected his neural HUD, overriding the corrupted input with a cracked alignment key Omega had tossed into the journal's last page. The risk was massive, viral implants, data compromise, but the need to know outweighed it. A cascade of decrypted files bled across the screen. Timelines. Executions. Echoes of agents like him, erased not by enemy fire, but by their own. There it was in black and white. Project Memento. Authorization Directive 17 Echo. Target elimination, rogue selves. Cashin stepped back. Every reassignment, every sudden update. It had never been about preventing paradoxes. Had been a purge. Bastards, he whispered. He heard the footsteps before he saw the figure. A woman, tall, lean, eyes like tempered steel, emerged from the shadows of the stacks. Not Omega. Someone else. You're late, she said. Cashin's hand hovered near his weapon. Identify. Naira. Temporal resistance. I used to work for them too before I got smart. She tossed a folded strip of holopaper onto the terminal. It flared open to display a node map, pulsating with hundreds of tiny lights. "These are the divergents," she said. "All timelines infected by sentient variants. Yours is the most stable. You were the key." Cashin frowned. "Why me?" "Because they kept you intact the longest. Studied how far a mind could bend before breaking. Omega was your recoil. A system can only suppress emotion so long before it becomes its own enemy." He looked at the map. A dozen pulses faded as they watched. "They're collapsing them in real time," she said. "We need to get ahead of the cascade." Cashin narrowed his eyes. "Why trust me? You don't remember yet, do you?" she said. "About Zurich. About the boy." Something like vertigo tilted the world. He staggered a step. "Boy." A scream. The smell of copper and ozone. "You're waking up," Naira said. "Good. Because we have to run." The shimmer rippled again behind her. Not his doing. Another jump initiated. Not sanctioned. Naira reached for his arm, but before contact was made, a pulse wave knocked them both back. The shimmer widened, splintering into two. From the first, Sarah stepped out. From the second, Cashin. Not Omega. Another iteration. Younger. Harper. Eyes full of purpose, unbroken by time. "You can't be here," Naira hissed. "They're rebooting the sequence," the younger Cashin said. "Wiping the cycle. All of it." Sarah approached with the cold confidence of someone who had already won. "This wasn't your decision to make, Agent Vale," she said. "Your protocol has expired." Cashin rose slowly, journal still in his hand. "You're not erasing me," he said. "Not again." She raised a device. Small, silver, unmistakable. A temporal anchor disruptor. With one press, she could displace his entire stream into oblivion. But before she could use it, Omega arrived. The standoff was chaos waiting to be triggered. 4 Cashins. 2 sides. 1 truth. Naira stepped between them. If we fight, they win. If we fracture, the loop restarts. Sarah's voice was acid. "You were never meant to remember. That was your peace." "No," Cashin said. "That was my prison." He looked at his younger self. "Do you want to be this?" The younger Cashin's jaw clenched. "I want to be free." Omega tossed him the journal. "Then start by knowing who you are." The shimmer began collapsing. Timelines colliding, coalescing. The resistance had activated something. Reformat. One chance to reboot with choice, not control. Cashin stepped forward and placed his palm on the disruptor in Sarah's hand. "We can end this. But not through deletion. Through memory." Sarah didn't resist. For the first time she looked uncertain. The world blinked. The library fell away. The timelines twisted and settled. Cashin had walked through many versions of his life, but none felt as vivid as the one now assembling around him. The sunrise was warm against his skin, but the peace it suggested was a lie. He could feel it, a pressure, a ticking underneath the quiet. Something had been set in motion that even time itself hesitated to touch. He stood alone on the cliff's edge for only a few minutes before the resistance made contact. A signal pulse reached his HUD, followed by a voice he hadn't heard before. "Not Naira, not Omega. This is Delta Rho. Confirming survival. You're the last anchor." Cashin replied with coordinates and received new instructions. Rendezvous with the strike team embedded in New Vienna. There the breach was largest, the timelines too tangled to distinguish. It was ground zero for whatever came next. He reached the city just before dusk, finding Naira already there. She looked older, though only a day had passed. Time didn't operate in a straight line anymore. "They've split the stream," she said. "One world remembers you. One doesn't." Cashin took in the skyline. Twisted glass towers, flickering neon remnants of ambition. Ghosts of progress. "Which one is this?" She gave a wry smile. "Both. For now." They descended into the lower wards where the Resistance's safe house was buried beneath a collapsed transport terminal. Inside, dozens of agents moved like clockwork, coordinating strikes, pulling intel, mapping flux zones. Cassian noticed the fear in their movements. Calculated, controlled, but always present. He met with their leader, a man named Colrin, scarred from at least 3 resets. "You've seen it, haven't you?" Colrin said. "The sequence fractures. We reboot but the system remembers. It adapts." Cassian nodded. "You're saying it's alive?" Colrin tapped a projection of the stream. "Not alive. Where? Doesn't want stability. It wants loyalty. Everything else is purge-worthy." "What about Sarah?" Cassian asked. "She's the linchpin. She doesn't even know it. Her code initiated Memento. She's the original trigger." Cassian's mind reeled. The woman who had hunted him wasn't just another agent. She was the blueprint. The ghost in every cycle. "We can't kill her," Naira said. "It would collapse both streams." Cassian took a breath. "Then we turn her." It was a fool's errand. But he had walked into worse. That night the plan began. Cassian would confront Sarah in the convergence zone, a nexus point between the streams. Only there could memory overwrite protocol. As he approached the zone, visions hit him like tidal waves. Lives he hadn't lived. Choices he hadn't made. Every iteration screaming to be remembered. And through it all the boy. Zurich. Field of Ash. Cassian holding the disruptor. The child reaching for his mother. Shut. No command. No orders. Just instinct. Fear. He stumbled into the zone gasping, the memory clawing at his lungs. And there she was. Sarah. She was alone, no weapon in hand, no army behind her. Her eyes shimmered with something unreadable. "I remember now," Cassian said. "So do I," she whispered. He lowered his hand. "You created it," he said. "Memento. You started this loop." "I was trying to save time," she said. "By controlling it. And now." She looked beyond him, toward the collapsing skyline. "Now I know it can't be controlled. Only guided." Cassian stepped closer. "Then guide it. Help us stop the recursion." Silence. Then a nod. Behind them the convergence began to shake. The timelines were reacting. Naira's voice came through the comm. "They're forcing an override. You've got seconds." Cassian turned to Sarah. "Do it." She raised her hand, pulsing with the key code from her core implant. A light flared. The convergence responded. Reality blinked. In that instant Cassian felt himself split. 1,000 selves unspooling into possibility. But one remained rooted. The one who chose. The one who remembered. The stillness that followed the convergence was deceptive. Cassian moved through the reconstructed stream with caution, unsure which laws still applied. There were no visible anomalies. No flickers in the sky, no auditory loops or collapsing architecture. But he felt it in the marrow of his bones. The stream was watching. Naira walked beside him, her presence steadier now. She was no longer just a rebel strategist. She was a historian of moments that had never happened, carrying knowledge of collapsed timelines like scars. "What happens if they try to restore it?" she asked. Cassian didn't look at her. He kept walking. "Then we fall again. But differently." They arrived at the archive vault, one of the few remaining data sanctuaries not wiped during the last recursion. Buried beneath what used to be Parliament Ridge, it was a relic of the old world, filled with analog fragments and biometric keys. And it held the only untouched imprint of the original stream. Inside, the air was dense with dust and static energy. Cassian approached the main console. It buzzed to life at his touch, projecting a map of the known temporal fractures. To his surprise, the breaches had stopped multiplying. They were stabilizing, holding their lines. Sarah's sacrifice had meant something. A file blinked in the center of the console. Origin.exe. He hesitated. Naira placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's her imprint." Cashin nodded, heart pounding. He opened the file. A video played. Sarah before the collapse, seated in a white chamber. Her voice echoed with calm, even as her eyes betrayed her fear. If you're seeing this, the recursion has ended. But remnants remain. I encoded them here. Memories, fragments, choices I didn't make. Use them to understand the pattern. Or to destroy it. The screen went black. A data tree appeared, branching with thousands of possible nodes. It's not just a message, Cashin whispered. It's a key. They spent hours combing through it, building a model of the recursion's genesis. They discovered a name buried in the root files. Dr. Elian Vance. Theoretical physicist. Dead for over a decade. Except his consciousness had been uploaded into the memento system. His code, self-replicating, was still active in deep memory. He was trying to live forever, Naira said. Using time as his container. And Sarah tried to stop him, Cashin added. They had a new mission now. To reach the last shard of the memento core, housed inside the Ascendant Vault, high in the sky beyond the Earth's gravitational field. It was built to be unreachable. But with Sarah's imprint, Cashin had the coordinates. The Resistance loaned them a jump craft. As the atmosphere peeled away behind them, Cashin felt the silence of space press against the hull like the edge of time itself. They reached the vault orbiting above the polar ridge. Its frame was obsidian and gold, reflecting stars and scars alike. Entry was impossible without Sarah's key. And yet, when he touched the console, it accepted him. The system remembered. They descended into its core, where a humanoid figure sat suspended in a glass prism. Dr. Elian Vance. Or what was left of him. The construct was aware, pulsing with digital life, but visibly decaying. You found me, Vance said, his voice glitched and regal. Cashin stepped forward. It ends now. You can't end what's already become law, Vance replied. Time is a doctrine. I am its prophet. You're a virus, Naira said coldly. And we're the cure. Cashin uploaded the final sequence. Sarah's memory encoded as the one thing the system couldn't replicate. Choice. Vance screamed. The prism cracked. The vault trembled as decades of recursive code began to unravel. As the system collapsed, Cashin and Naira raced for the surface pod. The structure detonated in a silent explosion, the sound eaten by space but visible in violent spirals of light. The recursion was gone. They returned to Earth. This time nothing fractured. No echo. No glitch. Time moved forward. As it should.